make that much difference. I think the key to riding Kurt for me is that when I commit to the final kick, that I have to just commit 100%.
Steve Phillips riding from the front. That's the position he's chosen this time. They come around to end the first lap. The front position is the control position.
We'll have to see how Steve really rides this. As he said, he cannot be tentative at all. When he commits, he has to commit 100%.
Now, Kurt Harnett is a guy that has taken advantage of a moment's lapse by competitors sometimes. I mean, we saw Ken Carpenter glance over the wrong shoulder one time, and Kurt was gone like a flash. So Steve cannot afford to hesitate or to take his concentration off of Kurt for even an instant.
That's right. And you can see him concentrating on it.
The gaze, you can almost see it through those goggles that he's gazing right up at Steve Phillips. Phillips, on the other hand, has to ride high on the track and look back at Kurt. He can use the shadows at times, as now the sun has emerged on us here. 1 lap to go, and now you just fast forward. Everything that's gone on at slow speed begins to happen fast now, with Phillips moving about halfway up the track. That's to keep Kurt from trying to come on the outside. He can move up. On the inside, he can move down. They're even going into the turn. Kurt goes around the front, and now Phillips tries to back out and get a shot at him. I think it's a mistake, and yes, Kurt Harnett just goes after it and takes about 4 bike lengths in the final straightaway to win the first ride. There was the mistake, Thomas Pren, that you talked about that Steve Phillips couldn't make, and Kurt Harnett made it look like a big one.
Yeah, that's right.
Here's the replay. Now here's Phillips in the lead, and Harnett trying to get around him, and he does. In the backstretch, here Phillips backs out, and that's the mistake he made.
Yeah, he shouldn't have backed out. He should have just held his line and tried to keep him up the track. But you can see the speed that Kurt Harnett has. He is just so much incredible speed coming off of that.
Muscling his bike down the straightaway, and since his peripheral vision sees nothing, he can relax, sits up across the line to take a 1-0 lead in the gold medal final. Stay with us. The Sundance Jude Sparkler Grand Prix on ESPN. We'll be right back.
Your nearest address.
The Kirin is speed, power, intelligence, brashness, cunning, and luck, all rolled into a 5-lap race. There is one man who personifies those qualities, and they call him the Chief. Michelle Vartan of Team Wheaties Schwinn has been a dominating force in the Kirin events of the Sundance Cycling Series, and it's by no fluke that he is. Vartan has been riding Kirin in Japan, where the race was born, for the past 11 years. He's been the Japanese Kirin Association champion several times in the past few years, and during that time, he has gained invaluable experience.
Kirin is not only the power with your legs, it's also a lot of technique involved. You have to find your way through it and make sure what kind of tactic you're using.
Though his earnings from Japanese Kirin keep Vartan comfortable year-round, while in Japan, he must submit to a hermit's life. Since the Japanese public bet on the outcome of Kirin races, the Japanese Kirin Association keeps a watchful eye on the riders.
It's really different from the American way of life. Japanese people are really strict and go by the program, and you can't go out of hand, you know. You have to get and live by the rules. And sometimes it's really hard. Like, we have to stay 4 days out of the week inside, and we may not leave the building, or we have to stay actually in the building.
Vartan and a handful of non-Japanese riders, including Wheaties teammate Gibby Hatton, are invited to compete in Japanese Kirin Association events for 2 months out of the year. And though they have loyal followings, their success in those 2 months isn't always welcome.
The last 3 years we have difficulties with some, it's like a riders union. I think it's more the riders, they are in the lower classes. They see that we make a lot of money in those 2 months, and they say, it doesn't seem fair that those guys are making so much money in 2 months, and we do actually the same job and make less money.
Vartan is now 32, not particularly old, but in cycling, the movement is always towards youth. And so Michel Vartan plans for his future like he rides his Kieran, with a little boldness and a dash of cunning.
Right now I'm working on a new professional team, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Welcome back, Brian Drever and Thomas Pren at the Sundance Grand Prix of Cycling in Indianapolis, and we're getting ready for the men's Kieran final. Hold on to your hats. This is a wild one. 5 laps around the track. The riders draw for their position and line up on the infield for the start, but after the start they can fight for position behind a pace motorcycle that's used for the first 3.5 laps or so of the race. With about a lap and a half to go, the motorcycle pulls off the track, and then it's a bicycle race. First rider to the finish line wins. There's the motorcycle, and on it is a camera that's going to show us a lot of that up-close action. There's the shot off the back of the bike. No riders there yet because he's circling the track, getting ready for the start. The field of riders in this event is a good one. The best we've ever had, in fact. And there they are, lined up on the infield, getting ready to go. A real battle, Thomas Pren, between Team Lycra and the Wheaties Schwinn team, a rematch from last week. Gibby Hatton and Michel Vartan, actually Vartan and Hatton in that order, took the top 2 spots last time around.
That's right. And what you also have in here is you have Kurt Harnett is riding the Kieran for the first time. And what that really, I talked with him earlier, and what he's saying is that the Kieran has now become such an important event that he feels he wants to start riding this thing.
All of the sprinters are in there. Mark Gorski is in there. Nelson Vales is in there. Richard Young is in there. These are 3 out of the top 4 in the match sprints are riding the Kieran. Here's Bobby Livingston right behind the motorcycle. He is a rider that's done extremely well, not only overall, but he's used the Kieran as a springboard for some of the results that he's had in the series. He is one of the top guys in the standings. In second spot, it's Nelson Vales in his Dayglow lime green jersey. And then number 66, Aaron Hartwell, also of Team Lycra. Team Lycra trying to get up behind the bike this time. They used a different strategy last time.
Yeah, I think what we see here is we know that there's going to be some strong team tactics between Lycra and Schwinn. And I think that both teams realize that it's going to be a big lead out at the end, so they're just going to try and get together. And in fact, at the back, we can see Schwinn kind of amassing at the back just so that they're riding together.
Well, it's a different look here. Usually they'll be fighting for position behind the motorcycle, and Livingston, I think, can't understand. He's like, where is everybody? He's expected to be head-butting and elbow jabbing here, fighting for position. But the Wheaties Schwinn guys are lining up a big freight train behind, and that's something that Team Lycra, there's a little bit of bumping now, and it's going on way at the back as they're headbutting each other at the back of the field there. That's Vartan, and it's Wheaties Schwinn and Lycra literally battling it out at the back of the field.
Look, they're absolutely battling it out.
And here's a lap and a half to go. The bike goes away. So all the headbutting went on way at the back of the field, and the Wheaties Schwinn team is trying to line up the freight train, coming around with a lap to go. At the front, it's Team Lycra. Aaron Hartwell leading it out for Bobby Livingston. Right behind Livingston, it's the Wheaties Schwinn train coming up, and down the backstretch they go. Hartwell starting to fade. Livingston makes his move on the backstretch with Gibby Hatton, the bear of Wheaties Schwinn in second spot. Nelson Vales pumping hard in third spot. It's Livingston, Hatton. It's going to be Bobby Livingston of Team Lycra winning the rematch. Oh, my. What a strange turn of events, and Bob Livingston of Team Lycra wins it from the front.
There's a lot of fighting going on during that one, and I think what we see here is we see Nelson Vales, who's all by himself, manages to capitalize on all of this fighting. Look at them.
Now here's the bike, the motorcycle, getting ready to pull down onto the apron with a lap and a half to go. And you can see all the fighting going on.
That's Michel Vartan there.
That's Vartan and Harnett headbutting back there. Here's Bob Livingston at the front of the field, looking over his shoulder for his teammate. And actually, it's coming around
Vales
the outside.
Is in third right there, and that's where he stayed the whole way.
Nelson Vales taking advantage of all the headbutting going on back there. And there's Harnett way on the outside. It's Hartwell, actually, that's leading it out. Aaron Hartwell, the youngster from right here in Indianapolis, that's leading it out for Bob Livingston. This is about a full lap to go. Livingston now has let a gap open up, and behind him, it's the Wheaties Schwinn team. Now Livingston sweeps him up the track. Aaron Hartwell starting to disappear.
Yeah, Aaron Hartwell's really starting to fade at this time, and we're going to see the riders sweeping around him with half a lap to go. Right there, Bobby Livingston going at the front, and then up the track it looks like Michelle Vartan tried to take some of the riders up the track.
Vartan tried to take Nelson high. Nelson Vales dropping into third spot here. It's Gibby Hatton in second spot. He's the one that's trying to get around. Look at him fighting the bike, but Livingston is possessed at the front here and really did a superb job using his teammate to set him up. There it is at the line. Bobby Livingston taking the win over Gibby Hatton of Wheatie Schwinn and Nelson Vales in third spot. Out in the infield, our Kieran winner, Bobby Livingston, Team Lycra. And first, Bob, job well done, obviously, for picking up another win in the Kieran event. You're doing great in the overall as well. You were fighting for position behind the motorcycle, but nobody was fighting with you. What was going on?
Right, Brian. Well, the start of the race, the plan was for me to go get the motor and then have somebody come and fight with them and let them kind of knock me off and let them think they took position for me, and I'd go back and pick up Kurt and bring him over the top with a lap and a half to go. But there was nobody there, so we kind of had to, change plans around.
Well, plan B turned out to be Aaron Hartwell leading out Bobby Livingston. And take a look at it here, Bob, and what's going on.
All right. Well, before that, I was looking for sort of like what we did in Houston. Was it looked like Schwinn was setting up to bring everybody over the top, a big lead out. So I was looking for that, but that didn't seem to happen. So Aaron came flying over, gave me a good lead out, and I just took it to the line. Well,
you held off Gibby Hatton, a man who certainly has Kieran credentials. You've got to be pleased about taking first place over both Hatton and Nelson Vales.
I'm definitely happy. It's been an up and down series for me, and I definitely needed this win.
Well,
what was it like out there with all the Schwinn guys in the back when there was all the fighting? Were you able to stay out of that then?
Yeah, I really didn't expect that. I didn't expect them to be back there. I was waiting for Gibby or Michelle or somebody to come up and fight with me, but I'm not sure what their plans were, but our plans seemed to work.
Well, all the fighting was going on in the back, and all the winning was going on in the front. Bobby Livingston, thanks a lot, and congratulations.
Thanks.
Winner of our Kieran, Bob Livingston, Team Lycra, so they have traded knockout punches. Wheatie Schwinn and Team Lycra, the rubber match next time. The women's sprint final on the track right now. The second ride for the gold medal between Connie Young of the Sundance Juice Sparkler team, the prohibitive favorite as she has won virtually all of the gold medals that have been offered so far, and she is the defending champion from last year. She's in her hometown. She's got everything going for her. And Julie Spate, her opposition from Australia, riding for Foster's. She was 5th in the Olympic Games to Connie Young's 3rd. These two match up, but it really is a little bit of a mismatch in a sense, Thomas Pren.
Connie Young has been so dominant in this competition. There just has been no one to even challenge her. In fact, Brian, I can't even recall a heat that she has not won.
Well, early in the year, we had a couple of times where it went to 3 rides. But since then, her training progress has brought her head and shoulders above the rest. We have to say that Renee Duprel is not here, and that is Connie's closest competition so far. And secondly, we have to say and remind everyone that Julie Spade is not 100%. She still has collarbone. She broke her collarbone, shattered a collarbone, and it's pinned together. And she is still suffering from the inability to use her upper body and arms to anchor her legs to the pedals.
Connie Young is playing around on this one a little bit. I mean, she's definitely taking it seriously. When I say playing around, I don't mean that she's not taking it seriously.
The cat and mouse is what you're talking about.
That's right.
Young.
Connie Young in the back there. She's moving around the track to see how Julie Spate's going to react.
I think that's good. You know, it's to stay sharp for a rider, to try to use different kinds of tactics during a race just to see how your opponent will react. You may run into this opponent at the World Championships when the stakes maybe are a little higher than here today. Down the backstretch, Julie Spade in the front position. Connie Young very comfortably riding in the saddle down the backstretch. She's so confident of her ability.
Now she starts to accelerate right there. You can just see it, Brian.
Just drives around Julie Spade in the turn. Just pulls out in the passing lane and goes right around. Connie Young in 2 straight rides takes another gold medal in the Sundance Juice Sparkler Grand Prix match sprint for women. Let's take another look at it.
Brian, she is so dominant in this competition, and you really have to really respect her because she just doesn't have any rivals here. You can see how fast she moves around, and yet she continues to train harder and harder each week. We see that she just gets faster and faster. And that's really a sign of an excellent athlete when they can continue to, their only challenge is themselves, how hard they can train.
She reversed the position from the backstretch. She was behind by a bike length, went on to win by a bike length in just 150 yards. Men's sprint final, and this could be the decider between these two riders for the gold medal here in Indianapolis. Kurt Harnett, Team Lycra, who has a share of gold medals already this season, to go along with a silver that he won in the Olympic Games in 1984. His opponent, Steve Phillips, relative newcomer to the sport, but a very speedy man trying to come back from an injury. He injured his hand in training a couple of weeks back and missed the Chicago installment of the Sundance Grand Prix, but with a layoff finds himself for the first time going for the gold. But he's fighting from a deficit, Thomas Prenn. He lost the first ride. He made a little mistake, and then Kurt Harnett made it look like a big one.
Well, when you're traveling at the speeds that these riders are, a little mistake ends up being a very big mistake, especially when you make that mistake when you're starting a sprint.
Kurt Harnett doing his final preparations there as he exhales loudly and announces that he is ready to go. They reverse positions now. They draw for a position before the first ride, and one rider starts at the bottom, the other one higher up the track. Then they reverse for the second ride at the starting positions. If it goes to a third ride, they redraw. Those positions at the start are important only in that the number one rider must lead the first lap in the match sprint. And Steve Phillips riding from that back position. This could get physical. And if it does, Steve Phillips says he's ready.
He's kind of a rough and tumble type rider. But I don't mind mixing it up either. You know, we've had some close physical rides, and I can mix it up just as well as the next guy.
Kurt Harnett, former hockey player, and well known for his ability to use his physical size and his strength, his upper body size and strength, to hold off and to intimidate his opponents. Steve Phillips says he's ready.
Steve Phillips certainly isn't going to intimidate Kurt Harnett, but if Kurt comes down on him, if he maintains his position, then he'll be. That's all he wants to do. He's not going to. He shouldn't back off.
I'm not sure that Steve Phillips or anyone wouldn't have to show up with an attack helicopter armed with machine guns to even raise an eyebrow from Kurt Harnett. They're getting ready in this final lap.
Kurt's in the front, and I think he's going to try and control it all the way to the finish, Brian.
That's the intimidation position in the front. Steve Phillips has got to try to pass Kurt Harnett, and Kurt won't make it easy. He won't just let him ride around. He's going to be up and down the track all over the place. You can see him just a little bit. There he gives another little move coming out of the final turn, and that one was critical. Kurt Harnett throwing one last move, just coming onto the straightaway, was enough to edge Steve Phillips up the track, and that was the margin of victory, a bike length. Let's take another look as we see Kurt Harnett riding around the track, and here we go into the final round turns here with Kurt Harnett in the front.
That's right. He moves up the track right there. He looks back, comes down again. He's into the pole position, coming out. And right there, that is all it takes, enough to just slow him down. And again, Brian, as I said, when you're moving at that kind of speed, just little things end up making big differences.
So Kurt Harnett by a bike length. Steve Phillips kept it a little closer this time, but Kurt Harnett shows us why. He is the gold medal favorite in the Sundance Juice Sparkler Grand Prix. He's added another one to his collection. Winner again of the gold medal in the match sprint competition, Kurt Harnett. Kurt, congratulations. This is like deja vu. It seems like we've done this before. Today you had a different opponent in Steve Phillips, and frankly, it didn't look that difficult for you.
Well, Steve's come off an injury, and the last couple of weeks have been a little hard on him. He hurt his hand, so he hasn't been able to ride the bike very hard. But every opponent, every ride is a tough ride, especially under the conditions today.
Now, speaking of conditions, you know, you've ridden not only the match sprint, but the Kieran for the first time today, and that was a little bit of a wild affair out there. What was it like?
Well, it was really tough. I I think maybe we should consider doing some program changes here, because having the Karen final in between the 2 sprint finals is just too difficult. I have a feeling that I'd be better. My finishing in the Karen would be a lot better if I had a little more recovery between my rides. It was just too difficult, and I just didn't have anything in the Karen, so I figured I'd jeopardize my finish in the Karen for winning the match sprints.
So, Kurt, are we going to be seeing you in more Karen events?
Well, we'll see. It will depends on on how the programming goes and how the promoters here at the Sundance decide to run things. But right now, I'm just finding it a little too difficult.
Well, we certainly had a lot of fun watching, and I hope you had some fun doing it. Congratulations again, Kurt. And I have to wonder, is anyone going to beat Kurt Harnett for a gold medal in the Sundance Grand Prix? Only time will tell as we work our way towards Trexlertown in the finals. Thank you very much, Kurt.
Thank you, guys. Here's
a look at an event that you don't often see in our Sundance Grand Prix series. Earlier today, the men's match sprint for 5th through 8th. These are the riders who are the losers from the quarterfinal round. These are the ones that did not make the Final Four. And up at the top of the track, we have another of the Canadian team that is here. This is Tony Ward, and again held by Des Dickey, the Canadian team coach. Here's Bobby Livingston, Team Lycra. Roger Young holding him on the starting line. Mark Gorski, who has been struggling this year and trying to get into the Final Four, and he's at least in the 5th through 8th final this week, Team Lycra. And Michel Vartan, Kieran specialist from Belgium, riding for Wheatie Schwinn. This is going to be an interesting race because 4 match sprinters on the track all at once.
Right. So before, when we're watching match sprints, it's one guy against another guy. Here we've got 4 guys, 4 different tactics, all being thrown together, 4 different styles of riding position, all thrown together on a track at once.
And it's only one ride. It's kind of a winner-take-all, if you will. Winner takes 5th place of this race. This is 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
And Tony Ward's making a move down at the bottom of the track.
Early now. This is 2 1/4 laps to go. He's coming around into the straightaway, and at the line we'll see 2 to go. He's opened up about 10 bike lengths, maybe 12. Early move by the young Canadian, trying to surprise the rest of the field.
Yeah, now Michel Vartan is chasing him down, but the question is, does Michel want to do all of the work to chase down the Canadian? And it seems like he is.
And we've got Mark Gorski in the back position, riding for the Sundance team. Team Lycra's Bobby Livingston. Now they've all jumbled back up again, and it falls into the hands of the sprinters. There goes Livingston. And what a physical mismatch. Mark Gorski trying to catch a draft off Bobby Livingston. There's no place to hide back there, but the 2 of them have run away from the field. Livingston and Gorski going for the win here, and it's going to be Bobby Livingston taking 5th place, Mark Gorski 6th.
Tony Ward, and then Michel Vartan.
There's the winner of the 5th through 8th final, Bobby Livingston, Team Lycra. And here's a look at the replay. Now here comes the 2 Americans around the outside. Bobby Livingston in the back straight, leading Mark Gorski with about a half a lap to go at this point.
Now that was a very, very long sprint. And you see Vartan sat up in the back. He was too tired. Livingston, who has more endurance, can go the long sprint. And I think what you see here right now is Livingston just really used to going the long sprints, and Gorski just not having the stamina to stay with him.
Bob Livingston wins the race. Mark Gorski takes 6th place in the match sprints. Michel Vartan, saving himself for the Kieran perhaps, stands off for one of the lower spots. Earlier today, we had a look at the men's Missin' Out final here in the Major Taylor Velodrome in Indianapolis, Indiana. The Missin' Out is a very different kind of event. The last rider on each lap is eliminated, so it is a race of attrition. One by one, the riders come out until there are only 3 left, at which point they get a neutral lap, the bell rings, and it's a sprint for places 1, 2, and 3. Men's Missin' Out. This is what it looked like at the start with all the riders on the track together. They have a neutral lap rolling start where they roll off, and then the field is all clustered together. The starting pistol fires, and then 1 lap later, the first rider gets the dubious honor of being called out in the Missin' Out. That's what it looked like at the start. And here's where we are right now. We have about a dozen riders left on the track. The Soviet team of Lithuanians all over the front. And the man coming out, that time at the back of the field there, team number 66 there. That was Aaron Hartwell, but he was not out. There was another rider on the track who had not come out after being called out by the officials, so Aaron Hartwell is still in there. At the front now, it is Weedy Schwinn, and it is
Sean
Wallace all over the front of the field. This whole Soviet team clustered in behind him. They've lost a couple of their riders in the missing out, but there are still 4 of them in there and very capable of taking this race away.
That's right. The 4 Soviet riders really are trying to ride together. You can see them all clustered at the front, and they're trying to work together in a team time trial fashion. One guy pulls, swings up the track, then drops in, another guy takes his turn.
At the front, it's Remigijus Lupaitis, who was kind of the odd man out at the Olympic team. He was the 6th man. They took 5 for the team pursuit. And Lupaitis, a very talented youngster, was the winner of the points race in our session yesterday. And at the back of the field, one by one, they're coming out of there.
Brian, you notice those handlebars that the Soviet team has. They're a bit unusual. They come up and they go all the way around. It's one solid piece. And actually, the reason they do that is because they use those bikes for another event, the Pursuit. And in a mass start event like this, they're not allowed to use bars that go up like horns. So the bar is connected all the way across the top.
Soviet team still all over the front of this race. Sean Wallace of Weedy Schwinn hanging in gamely in 2nd spot, and coming out this time, number 51, Perry Scaletta, Team Manitoba from Canada. So Scaletta in the yellow jersey up at the top of the track has been withdrawn by the officials, and we are down to 9, 10 riders now. And dropping in at the back there, the guy with all that funny-looking gear on his head is Nelson Vales, who in addition to being one of the best sprinters in our Sundance Grand Prix has also become one of our favorite cameramen. And there's the look at the missing out field that Nelson Vales gets.
Well, we've got the Soviet rider. Watch him accelerating around, and he realizes he's in a dangerous position. He's got to get around, and at the back, we've got a Weedy Schwinn rider.
That's Vartan at the back of the field, but he's picking off one at a time. First of all, he got number 79, Gene Samuel, last lap. And let's see who they pull out this time around.
They didn't pull anyone out that time because there was still someone in the field who was supposed to have been pulled.
It was Gene Samuel who was still stuck in there. Sometimes the riders have difficulty hearing on the PA announcement whether their name or number has been called. Now here you see him slinging around the outside. There is the front of the field. Number 58 is still Lupaitis leading it out with Wallace in 2nd spot, but the action's at the back.
The Sean Wallace and the Weedy Schwinn team are really staying up there at the front with the Soviets.
So now at the front it is Vartan and Wallace of Weedy Schwinn, 4 Soviet riders, 2 from Team Lycra, and there is a good look at the back of Bobby Livingston. Now he has done very well and is the leader overall in the standings on the Sundance Juice Sparkler Grand Prix. Nelson moves up inside of Livingston. Just ahead of him is number 77. That's Brian McDonough of Team Lycra, also an outstanding all-around rider. So Nelson Vales giving us a good look at the back of the field, and here's a look at the front with Vartan and Wallace and the Soviets. There they are, pulling away. And it was Chip Liushis of the Soviet Union, number 59, coming out that time. So the Soviets have lost now another rider. They're down to only 2 in the field. 2 Soviets, 2 Weedy Schwinn, 2 Team Lycra. It's all even. In trouble at the back, it's Livingston. And Bobby Livingston, number 65, gets eliminated. We're down to 5.
Now look at the 2 Soviets. They're just accelerating at the front.
Now we'll go down to 2 riders in this race here, not 3 as we had announced earlier. Brian McDonough in 3rd spot trying to get around, and he gets edged up the track a little bit.
No,
but the 5th man is going to be Vartan way off the back. There's still 4 left in. The man you cannot see was Michel Vartan of Weedy Schwinn, who was eliminated.
So now they're just accelerating one more guy, and then they get a lap.
Now the guy in trouble is Wallace of Weedy Schwinn down there in 3rd spot. He's got nowhere to go. The Soviet rider on the outside can get around him, and Wallace has to squeeze down on the apron. The officials will surely call him out because you can't advance your position off the track that is on the apron. So Sean Wallace, indeed, number 74, is pulled out. But Brian McDonough having trouble. He thought he was out, but it was Wallace on the inside. The 2 Soviet riders are left in the race right now.
Brian McDonough sat up because he thought he was out, and the two Soviet riders just kept their heads down and kept going, and they're going to just ride away with this race. Brian McDonough can't catch him now, even though they have one more lap before the finish.
It's supposed to be a neutral lap, but that doesn't mean you can't race. It just means that it's 2 to go once that last rider is pulled out. And certainly the rider that's going to get pulled out this time is going to be Brian McDonough. He's not even in the picture. This is the Soviet duo right here. The two riders left in from the Lithuanian team. They get the bell with 1 lap to go. It's Arturas Kaspudas and Remigijus Lupaikas. Kaspudas was on the 1988 Olympic team. Lupaikas was not. He did not make the trip. He was the number 3 man from Lithuania. There's a good shot of Lupaikas. Good-looking young rider. And behind him is Kaspudas, who won a gold medal as part of the Soviet team pursuit squad in Seoul. They come through to take first and second place. A fine performance by these 2 Lithuanian riders representing the Soviet Union in the Sundance Juice Sparkler Grand Prix. Brian McDonough picked up that 4th spot, third spot rather. Sean Wallace 4th. Little confusing in the missing out.
That's right.
A fine performance by these 2 Soviet riders.
Yeah, it just shows you how well the Soviet team works together. They just, they knew what they had to do. There was an opportunity and they took advantage of it.
Let's take a look at where the confusion began to reign as we look at our 2 winners. Here with 4 riders left on the track, Sean Wallace is going off the track down on the inside. That's against the rules. Coming around on the outside is Kaspudas, and Brian McDonough begins to spade in yellow, number 77. He thinks he's last. So once they cross the line, in fact, McDonough had crossed the line. They're almost abreast there. You have to look at the back wheels, but McDonough's back wheel is sticking out. He's the last man across the line. He thought he was eliminated, but in fact, the officials had disqualified Wallace because he had passed on the apron. At that point, the 2 Soviet riders just rode away. McDonough sat up, thought he was out. Wallace knew he was out. The 2 Soviet riders went on to win the race. Here it is again.